think the prison system is the new Jim Crow. There's more than 2 million black men in prison. More than 50% of the men in prison are black men, when black men are only 6% of the population. A lot of this has to do with these unfair drug laws. The war on drugs is a failure. This is why I believe all illegal drugs should be legalized. When I see a lot of these cases of people getting 30 and 40 years in prison for minor drug cases, it's just completely outrageous. I think the entire justice system needs to be reformed. I think if a person has a problem with drugs, they should be sent to rehab. They shouldn't be sent to prison. To give a person 30 or 40 years in prison for a non-violent drug offense is absolutely ridiculous. There needs to be reform. This is why I'm a libertarian. For a lot of people that don't understand the libertarian point of view, it's basically that you believe in freedom of choice. That's what it's all about. Whether it's socially or economically. I believe all drugs should be legalized because what somebody does in the privacy of their own home is their business. What somebody does with their body is their business. The government doesn't have the right to tell people what to do with their own body. If you want to do drugs, you should have the right to do drugs. You want to sell drugs, you should have the right to sell drugs. Like I said, if a person has a problem with drugs, they should be sent to rehab. They should not be sent to prison. And that's what freedom of choice is all about. Now, a lot of these religious people, they say, doing drugs is a sin, but so is everything else. To say a person should be sent to prison for doing something to their own body is just absolutely ridiculous. That's a form of fascism when you're telling people to do what they want, telling people that they can't do something with their own body. Now, I'm not condoning drug use. I don't do drugs. I don't drink or smoke. But I believe in free will. I believe in freedom of choice. And we should not send people to prison for doing something to their own body. Now, if you have a pregnant woman that's pregnant and she's smoking crack, I think she should be sent to prison because she's harming that unborn child. But if you're a person, a single person who lives alone, and you have a problem with doing drugs, you should not be sent to prison because you're not harming anybody but yourself. And like I said before, I'm not condoning drug use. I'm just simply saying that these people should not be sent to prison just because they have a drug problem. And another reason why so many black men are in prison is because of the justice system. If you can't afford to hire a top-notch lawyer, you're going to be sent to prison. George Zimmerman was able to hire a top-notch quality lawyer. His father is also a judge. And this is how he was able to get off. Because a lot of people donated $1 million to his defense. And that's how he was able to hire this top-notch lawyer in order to get off. That's the same thing with O.J. Simpson. During the 1994 murder case of O.J. Simpson, he had the money and the resources to hire top-notch lawyers in order to get off. And this is the problem with the justice system. Because it has more to do with how much money you have and don't have than whether you actually committed the crime or not. This is the biggest problem with the justice system. The crime should be based on whether you're sentenced to prison should be based on whether you committed the crime or not. It shouldn't be based on how big of a name your lawyer is. We all know if a person comes from the inner city, if a person comes from a poor background, they can't afford those top-notch lawyers. That's why in most cases, if a poor person gets arrested for doing something, they're going to prison. Like, for example, look at how many times Paris Hilton has been caught with cocaine and heroin. She's been caught numerous times with cocaine and heroin, but she's never served 1 day in prison. She gets off every time because she can afford those top-notch lawyers in order to get off. But if you take a poor inner-city woman from the ghetto, she's going to prison if she's caught with cocaine or heroin. And this is the problem with the justice system. We have one of the most unfair justice systems in the world, in my personal opinion. And I think the only way this is going to change, there needs to be reform across the board. The prison system is the new Jim Crow because it's all about making money. They're basically using these prisoners as slaves, as cheap labor. They pay them cents on the dollar to work in these prisons, and it's basically slave labor. I used to work at a prison, and I saw how a lot of these people are treated and how they're used in the workforce. They're treated like slaves. That's why the prison system today is actually, it's a form of slavery. And I think the only way this is going to stop, there needs to be more awareness. There needs to be more outrage. And I encourage more black people to become libertarian. Being a libertarian is not a Democrat or a Republican. It's an independent point of view. It's not a right-wing point of view or a left-wing point of view. It's an independent point of view. The only way this war on drugs is going to stop, these drugs need to be legalized so people can have the freedom to do what they want in their personal lives. That's why I encourage more black people to become libertarians. A lot of people have different opinions on this topic. Leave a comment, rate, and subscribe.